Thank you. Senator Baldwin.
Thank you. Commissioner Maffei, good to see you. Thank you for being here today. I am very concerned about China's large and growing influence in the world's infrastructure network. A company from Hong Kong operates 2 ports in the Panama Canal, one on each end, and while the company is not Chinese state-owned, it is subject to China's national intelligence law, as we've been discussing. Moreover, a Chinese state-owned entity is currently building a bridge over the Panama Canal. But the Panama Canal is just one example of how far China's influence stretches. Their dominance in maritime, logistics, and shipbuilding sectors lessens competition, creates supply chain risks, and creates opportunities for surveillance and information gathering. In order to facilitate the movement of goods throughout the world, it's essential to have a secure and level playing field, which we currently don't. Chinese current practices do not allow for that. The United States Trade Representative recently investigated China's practices in the commercial shipbuilding sector under Section 301, and recently concluded that their dominance is a burden to United States commerce. A few decades back, we were the dominant country in commercial shipbuilding. In 2023, we built 5 commercial ships, and China built over 1,700, according to that investigation. So, what policies would you recommend to prioritize growth of the United States' influence in the maritime and logistics sector to compete with China and level the playing field?
Answer in less than a minute. Yep. Senator Baldwin, it's very good to see you again, and we were colleagues for 1 term in the House, and I appreciate that. I think the best I can answer in a short term is to amen to everything you said. And as an illustration, Senator Sullivan was talking about Hutchison Ports. That's actually the same company that runs terminals on both ends of the canal. I am concerned about that. However, if we want to be concerned about that, all of us should lose a lot more sleep than we're losing. Because if there's spies there, then there might be spies at other Hutchison ports. And there are other Hutchison ports in almost every part of the world. They own the largest container port in the United Kingdom, Felixstowe, which is responsible for nearly half of Britain's container trade. They control major maritime terminals in Argentina, Australia, the Bahamas, Germany, Indonesia, Mexico, Myanmar, the Netherlands, South Korea, and Tanzania. If owning and managing adjacent ports means that China somehow has operational control or strategic control over the Panama Canal, they also have it over the Suez, the Singapore Straits, the Mediterranean Sea, and the English Channel. That's just one aspect of what you were talking about. That doesn't include the shipbuilding, heavily subsidized, such that now I believe over half of new ships that are in the companies that belong to the World Shipping Council are coming from China, not because these are bad companies, but because they're undercutting other things. It's a problem that has been going on for 20 years, which makes it very difficult to answer your question. It is a long answer. This is not a problem that occurred last week. This is not something that President Trump identified. This was going on all of President Biden's term, but all of President Trump's first term. It has been going on for decades and decades through both U.S. Republicans and Democrats as president. The only thing I can say is I echo what Ranking Member Cantwell said, and I think others of both parties have echoed it, that we need some sort of overall maritime strategy. We have to acknowledge that this is part of our national security, that economic resilience is extraordinarily important, and I believe this is the greatest country in the world. I think if we start countering some of these efforts, we can do it, but it has to become a national priority. And part of the challenge is we're talking about outside the borders of our U.S. Investing outside the borders of our U.S. does not make a very good campaign ad, but it may be necessary to secure, particularly with such an aggressive and, frankly, on this, open strategy that China has had.
Thank you for that answer. I know my time is now short. I will allow Professor Kantorovich to answer this for the record. But Professor, I'd like to ask for your help in finding productive actions we can take to overcome some of the challenges that are being discussed today, I'm confident that we can find bipartisan solutions to pursue. It is my view that we should strengthen our relationship with Panama through mutually beneficial actions. For one, we should have a fully staffed embassy. The United States went without an ambassador to Panama from 2018 to 2022, largely due to partisan gridlock in the Senate confirmation process. So what additional strategies would you suggest the U.S. pursue to encourage Panama to enhance its security relationship with us, the United States of America, rather than China? And how can we leverage the strength of the American private sector to encourage more investment in the important infrastructure projects where China currently has a strong presence, in fact, dominance?
Thank you. So my understanding of the Chinese advantage is that to the extent that they're willing to use their government wealth to consistently underbid contracts, they have an advantage that can't be beat. And thus leaving these kind of issues to contracting is going to put American companies perpetually at a disadvantage. I think one potential action would be to make clear to Panama that based on these changes that have occurred over the years, increasing Chinese control over Hong Kong, the passage of the National Security Law, the Belt and Road Initiative, the military-civilian integration doctrine of China, that contracts with Chinese-based companies are considered suspect and incompatible with the neutrality regime of the treaty. That would at least give American companies and other truly private companies a fighting chance.
Thank you. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr.